Hallows Eve. Ooh, what spooky time. So another way of saying Halloween, basically. This is an interesting movie. This is actually an anthology film. So if you don't know what that is, basically, it's a collection of small stories, basically, three sort of separate stories that have a kind of wraparound story. So this being an anthology film, I'm going to have to kind of split it up a little bit. So let me talk to you about the overreaching arc, basically, the kind of, I guess we consider it probably the main story. And this basically focuses on a babysitter who's looking after kind of two kids on Halloween. Well, obviously their parents are out sort of partying, and basically at the beginning of the movie they're kind of divvying out their candy, and they're sort of emptying out the bags. And I think there's a videotape in there, and you know, they don't know where it's come from. Someone's obviously dropped it in there. And they don't know what's, but it's completely blank, and obviously you think, ah, is it going to be porn? But no, it's just kind of what seems to be horror films, and this is what basically the anthology stories are. And of course it's a little bit sort of spooky, and you might say, who in kind of 2013 when this movie was made really has VHS players still? I actually do have one, but you know, I'm a bit of a film geek, but these kind of random people probably remember, whatever. It does have a kind of old feel to it, almost like a kind of a 90s feel to it, this movie, so maybe you can kind of look past that. And basically this kind of videotape contains these kind of short films, basically, these kind of, initially these kind of three of them watch, and then the babysitter watches just the kind of the remaining two. And throughout the kind of the movie, in this kind of wraparound section, we get the impression this may be some kind of plot, supernatural plot, to kind of like invade the kind of this kind of babysitter in her house. So let me talk to you a little about the anthology for the three kind of separate stories, because they're of varying quality, but they all have kind of a common thread. And this thread being is kind of this mime, or clown I guess, but looks more like a mime. And he has more to do in some than others. So the first one basically isn't really a story, to be honest. It's just a collection of monsters, basically, and we have this kind of this clown that's seeming sort of drugs basically a young girl in a sort of like a train station or something, and then gives them to this kind of bunch of weird monsters, and who chain her up with a bunch of other ones and sort of do bad things to them, and that's the story. So there's not a lot much in regards to story in that first one. There just seems to be like a bunch of random scenes. It seems like the monster effects, you know, are not bad. They're kind of a little bit sort of obviously masks, if you ask me, but nevertheless there's kind of a good variety. But you don't really know what's going on. It doesn't really explain what the hell's going on with it in these things. This is the problem I have with anthology films, is it kind of, there's not really much room for explanation, and you never really can build up any empathy for the characters. This is not long enough. But this particular one was just, it just felt a little bit too rushed. There was not enough there was no story in it really. It was just like, in fact, this whole movie, the whole wraparound section, and all of the three kind of stories are basically the forces of evil chasing down women. That's basically it. The second story in the kind of the anthology was by far the weakest, I would say. At least the first one had some kind of quite good monster effects. The second one is once again a woman alone in a house, and basically a kind of meteor lands next to her house, and it has this kind of really crappy looking alien that basically just chases her through the house. And there's the painting of a clown in the house as well. That's the kind of the connection, I guess, which I don't really know. It doesn't really explain why. The third story basically is the best out of the three anthology ones, and this concerns a young woman's kind of driving home for Halloween basically, and she happens to sort of stop off across a gas station where the worker at the kind of the petrol station, or gas station if you're in America, is in an altercation with this kind of the same sort of mime, the same clown basically that we've kind of seen, and basically this kind of clown decides he wants to murder this girl and follow her basically, and kind of it's more of a kind of a chase movie to a certain degree, but it kind of goes into this more of a sort of supernatural element as well. And let's say we have that kind of wraparound story, which basically I won't spoil for you because it's more or less the end, but that's kind of quite sort of spooky as well. So the actual anthology films were a mixed bag. The last one was pretty good. I would have maybe liked to see that as the actual film. The second anthology section was crap, and the first one wasn't fantastic either, though slightly better than the second. And the wraparound story, I would say, is good. So it's kind of 50% good, this movie, because the third story is good and the wraparound story is okay. The first two ones are crap. One of the things that did bug me about this, though, a couple of bits, is we're given no idea about what's actually happening, because it appears initially that the clown is maybe just a guy in a mask because he's using syringes and stuff like that. But then in the later sort of sections, he appears sort of supernatural. So we don't really know what's going on. And what kind of bugs me about it, I mean, this is maybe just for me personally, is I think you need to establish rules about what things can and can't do. Otherwise, you can just kind of make stuff up and the story can go anywhere. Do you know what I mean? It just seems to be that anything can happen just because the story deems it necessary. So, you know, is it a guy in a mask or is it some kind of, is it a ghost? You know, we don't really know. And it kind of bugs me that because you have these kind of short sort of stories, we don't know what actually is going on, to be honest. So that kind of, maybe that's a personal thing, as I say. The acting was okay, to be fair. I think the kids in the kind of the main thing aren't the best actors, but child actors, what you're going to do is kind of they're a bit hit and miss. So the acting overall, I would say, was acceptable. The makeup effects, I think, were pretty good. The actual clown himself looks pretty terrifying. I think they're good. It's obviously made to be a kind of terrifying looking kind of mime. I believe they actually are doing a sequel to it, although I've got a feeling it's not an anthology. It's going to be just a straight, you know, a straight story, which may be of benefit to it, to be fair, because I don't think the anthology did it any favours. So I have to say it was kind of a bit of a mixed bag, this movie. If you like anthology films, you may like this. I'm not a huge fan of them, to be honest, because I prefer a little bit more sort of fleshed out stories and characters and things like that. But like I said, the last story was good, the wraparound story was good, but so I'm going to give this a straight 5 out of 10 because it was half good, half shit. So there you go, 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? And who's the scariest clown? Is it this one or is it Pennywise from It? Who knows? Leave me a comment. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.